Well, Denise, Melissa, the shooting is drawing a lot of attention online, with many people identifying one of the two men shot as NBA Ben 10, an affiliate of rapper NBA YoungBoy. And Houston police say that the gunman on the run was actually being robbed for his chains and assaulted when he shot up the restaurant before taking off.
YoungBoy heard his brother got shot and stayed completely silent. Not a single post, no story, no tweet, nothing at all. Before people start jumping to conclusions saying he doesn't care, slow down for a second, because that silence is louder than anything he could have said out loud. Today, we're breaking down exactly what went down in Houston on April 8th and why this situation is way deeper than it looks on the surface. We're talking about why Ben 10 is even able to sit in that hospital bed right now, and what YoungBoy's silence is really saying about his mindset. This isn't gossip. This isn't internet drama. This is real street politics. If you don't know the difference yet, you're about to understand real quick, because this situation runs deep and gets serious fast. First off, let's clear something up, because a lot of people online got it twisted about who Ben 10 really is. People keep calling him just an associate, like he's some random guy in the background, but that's not the case at all. Ben 10, whose real name is Ben Anthony Fields, is real family, related by birth, not just connected through business. He's a close cousin from the same Baton Rouge streets that shaped Kentrell Gaulden into who the world knows as NBA YoungBoy. These two didn't just grow up in the same city. They came up in the same environment, same circles, breathing the same air and surviving the same rough blocks together. This isn't surface level loyalty, this is deep rooted history. And Ben 10 isn't just around, he's a real part of the Never Broke Again movement, locked in way deeper than most people realize. This whole thing started as a family-first operation that YoungBoy built from nothing when people were doubting him and counting him out completely.
So what we know right now is our suspect, who we don't know who he is right now, we're working on that. Investigators do a great job. I'm sure they'll figure out who he is. Was at this location and had a confrontation with a couple guys.
And let's clear something up, because a lot of people hear Never Broke Again and think it's just a rap label, but that's a way off. It's deeper than music, deeper than deals, deeper than charts. NBA is a brotherhood, a code, a way of moving where loyalty comes before everything else, no exceptions. YoungBoy didn't just sign random artists to build a roster. He brought in his day ones, his cousins, the people who stood next to him before the fame, before the money, before the spotlight hit. Ben 10 is one of those people, and his role goes way beyond just being related. Ben 10 isn't just family on paper either. He's been active behind the scenes and in front of the camera for years. He's worked in the creative space, shooting visuals, building content, and growing his own presence with over 1 million followers on Instagram. He even runs his own clothing brand, Slime Design, and has appeared right alongside YoungBoy in music videos like Hell and Back. That's someone who turned access into real motion and built something solid off loyalty and connection. And here's the part people don't always think about, but the streets already understand. When you're connected to someone like NBA YoungBoy, attention comes with it whether you want it or not. You don't have to be the main face to feel that pressure. The chains, the lifestyle, the following, it all puts a spotlight on you instantly, and that kind of attention can turn risky real fast. Ben 10 was out there living that lifestyle, and on April 8th, that spotlight caught up with him in the worst way possible.
That altercation originally, it appears from what they were doing, was trying to take his chains. Now, we don't know if they knew him or what that was, but it appears possibly they knew this guy, and they were in the process of trying to rip his chains off. That went on for 30 seconds to a minute where these two guys were tussling with him, actually got him to the ground, and appears probably got his chains from him.
This wasn't some random situation in a dark alley either. This went down at a place called Confessions, a popular restaurant and nightclub in Houston's Upper Kirby area. Now, Upper Kirby isn't just anywhere, it's upscale, polished, the type of spot people hit when they're celebrating, dressing sharp, and showing off a little. It's where you go to enjoy yourself, not worry about danger creeping in. Ben 10, 26 years old, was inside that venue that night, and reports say it was tied to spring break energy, maybe even a birthday. Celebration. The kind of night that's supposed to be all good vibes, good people, and smooth energy all around. But then everything flipped fast. Inside Confessions, something sparked, and it wasn't planned. According to Houston Police Lieutenant R. Wilkins, who addressed the situation publicly, this situation didn't even begin with any kind of shots being fired. It started as something else entirely. What really set it off was a robbery attempt. Someone tried to run up and snatch Ben 10's chains right there in the middle of everything. In a place full of people, lights, and music, the situation turned tense in seconds, and once that line got crossed, things escalated quick. Now really think about this for a second. You're in a packed club, 20 to 30 people all around, music blasting, energy high, and somebody decides that this is the moment to run up on someone tied to NBA and snatch his jewelry. That's not just random behavior. That takes a certain level of boldness.
Another fella jumps in, and several other people jump in as well, along with these other guys, and they start having a fist fight. And they're beating this guy pretty bad. Got him on the ground and beating him pretty good. Sometime during that part of the fight, our victim, who was originally looked like he was being majorly assaulted by several people and getting his chains ripped off, he presents a pistol.
Or a certain level of information, because nobody just walks up on someone connected to YoungBoy's circle without knowing exactly who they're dealing with. So it really comes down to two possibilities. Either these guys were reckless and not thinking straight, or they had some kind of inside knowledge. And people have definitely been talking, trying to figure out which one it really was. According to Lieutenant Wilkins, the whole situation played out in under a minute, around 30 seconds to 60 seconds of straight chaos. There was pushing, grabbing, multiple people involved, and at some point, Ben 10 got taken to the ground. It wasn't clean, it wasn't quick, it was messy. And from the way it sounds, the attackers actually got what they came for. They got the chains. At that point, it should have been over. Grab and go, situation done, everyone walks away. But that's not how this played out at all. Here's where everything takes a sharp turn. The person being robbed, who Lieutenant Wilkins referred to as the suspect, wasn't even Ben 10. It was another individual caught in that moment, getting his chains taken. And while he was down, overpowered, it turns out he had something on him the whole time. As soon as the chains came off, everything changed instantly. That same individual suddenly pulled out a weapon and began firing inside a packed restaurant. No warning, no control, just rounds going off in every direction. Lieutenant Wilkins kept it direct when explaining it. He got it out and started shooting randomly. And in that instant, everything spiraled completely out of control. 2 people ended up getting hit. 2 lives affected in seconds, and one of them was Ben 10, Ben Anthony Fields, cousin of NBA YoungBoy, part of the Never Broke Again circle, caught in the middle of pure chaos inside Confessions Nightclub in Houston, April 8, 2026.
We don't know where he got it from, but he got it. Must have had it in his pants the whole time, but he got it out and started shooting randomly. Ends up hitting 2 people. Those are our 2 victims. Not certain if these are the same ones that were trying to rip off his necklaces or not. Again, investigation's just now starting, but investigators are going to get over here and try to figure out exactly how that occurred. We got some folks on the scene that are talking to us and got some good video. So
what started as a robbery turned into a full-blown disaster in the blink of an eye. Witnesses said everything flipped into panic mode instantly. People were screaming, diving behind tables, knocking over chairs, just trying to find any kind of cover. It wasn't organized, it wasn't controlled. It was straight chaos inside that club. Then a video from inside started going viral within hours, spreading all over the internet. And what it showed was intense. Chairs flipped over, people stretched out on the floor, and one person yelling that someone didn't make it. That clip alone sent the whole situation into another level, and that's when the rumors really took off. Because in 2026, social media doesn't wait for facts, it reacts fast and loud. Twitter and Instagram went crazy with people posting non-stop, claiming Ben 10 didn't make it, saying he was gone, pushing stories before anything was confirmed. The noise got out of control quick, and it only made things more confusing. Here's what was actually known in those early moments. 2 victims, both hit multiple times, both in critical condition according to Houston police. At the same time, social media was going crazy with rumors about someone not making it, and nobody from the NBA circle stepped out to say anything publicly. Lieutenant Wilkins laid it out clearly on camera, and the details were serious. One victim was hit multiple times in the torso. That means chest, stomach, areas that can be life-threatening. The other victim was hit in the arms and legs multiple times as well. Both were rushed to nearby hospitals, both fighting through critical injuries. And Wilkins didn't try to soften it. He made it clear just how serious the situation really was. These weren't minor injuries. This was a critical survival level situation. And in the hours right after, people online started putting the pieces together in real time, trying to figure out what was actually going on. Then something shifted the whole narrative. OG Monique, mother of rapper OG33, another name tied into the NBA circle, jumped on Instagram and shut the rumors down directly. No press conference, no long statement, just a quick IG story that cut through all the noise. She said, 10’s alert, stop the made up stories. That was it. Just a few words, but it told everyone everything they needed to know. Ben 10 was alive, he was conscious, and he was still fighting. The internet flipped instantly, from panic and rumors to relief and support pouring in from every direction. Comments started flooding timelines, people sending prayers, showing love, and standing behind him. The hip-hop world was locked in, watching closely because everyone understands what Ben 10 represents in that circle. And at the same time, everyone knew how serious it would have been if things went the other way. But here's the part that really stood out and not enough people were saying it out loud. While all of this was happening, YoungBoy stayed completely silent. Kentrell Gaulden didn't post, didn't react, didn't say a single word publicly. No message, no update, nothing from his side at all. Even his team stayed quiet. Major outlets checked and there was still no official statement about his own cousin being shot and hospitalized in critical condition. That silence didn't go unnoticed, and that's where the situation starts to get deeper. Because a lot of people online saw that silence and instantly jumped to the wrong conclusions. And that's exactly where things started getting misunderstood. People immediately started talking crazy, saying YoungBoy doesn't care, saying he left his people behind, building all these narratives that completely miss who Kentrell Gaulden really is. That talk spread fast, but it wasn't grounded in reality. Let's be real for a second. YoungBoy's silence isn't abandonment, it's strategy. That's how he moves, and if you followed him for even a short time, you already know this isn't new behavior. This is someone who's been moving careful for a long time. We're talking about a man who's dealt with federal attention, who's had to fight serious legal situations while the whole industry watched closely. He's seen how fast things can flip, how people around you, family included, can end up part of cases, statements, and pressure situations. That kind of experience changes how you move forever. So when something like this happens, running to social media is not the move. No posts, no emotional reactions, no public statements in the heat of the moment. Because in legal situations, anything said publicly can come back in ways people don't expect. And beyond that, reacting publicly to something like this can tie your name into it in ways that go deeper than just words. That's why people who are asking, where's YoungBoy at? Don't really understand the level he's operating on. They've never had to move knowing that every post could be watched, every message could be analyzed, every reaction could carry weight. YoungBoy has lived that reality already. So his silence isn't cold or careless, it's calculated, it's controlled, and it's the kind of move meant to keep things from getting even more complicated than they already are. But here's the reality you really need to sit with for a minute, because this is the part people keep avoiding. The title, the reason everyone clicked, NBA. YoungBoy reacting to his brother being in critical condition. And yeah, let's be clear about what we actually know. Ben 10 is alive, OG. Monique confirmed it herself. 10 is alert, stop the made up stories. Reports say he's stable, conscious, and expected to pull through. That right there is the outcome everyone around him is holding on to tight right now. The call nobody wanted to get never came, and that changes everything, because you have to look at the other side of this, the part nobody wants to say out loud. Imagine if this went differently. Imagine if those shots to the torso did what they're known to do. Imagine if that Instagram story turned into something way darker instead of a message saying he's alert. Now you're talking about a completely different situation. You're talking about NBA YoungBoy, a man whose music is built on pain, loyalty, and loss. Someone who has poured real-life emotions into every track, making people feel exactly what he's been through. His history, his lyrics, his reputation all point to one thing. His people mean everything to him. So if Ben 10 didn't make it, that silence everyone is questioning right now, it wouldn't stay silence. It would turn into something heavier, something louder in a different way, and everybody watching already knows that. That's why this moment matters so much. Because the outcome we got kept things from going to a place that would have hit way harder, not just for him, but for everyone connected to that circle. That's exactly why the internet was on edge, watching every second, every blog, every outlet, every page was refreshing nonstop, waiting for updates, because when someone connected to YoungBoy's level of influence is involved, situations like this don't stay quiet for long. But the biggest point in all of this, Ben 10 made it. And that outweighs everything else in this story right now. That one fact shifted the entire energy around the situation. Now let's get into where things stand, because this isn't over yet. Not even close. there's still a lot of questions floating around, and both the streets and law enforcement are paying attention heavy. First, the individual who fired those shots. As of now, the person who pulled the trigger inside confessions has not been publicly identified. Lieutenant Wilkins confirmed that investigators are working with surveillance footage, reviewing video, and talking to witnesses who were at the scene. People are cooperating, but still, no arrest has been announced and no name has been released. That means the person responsible for putting Ben 10 in that hospital bed is still out there. And that detail matters because when the person responsible hasn't been caught, the situation stays open. Nothing is settled, nothing is closed, and anything can still happen. The investigation is active, pressure is building, and depending on how everything plays out legally and beyond, this story is still unfolding in real time. Now here's where it gets even more complicated. The legal side of this situation isn't simple at all, because from what's being reported, the person who fired those shots was allegedly the one being robbed. And that right there changes everything, because now it's not just about what happened, it's about how it's interpreted, how it's proven, and what comes next. He was on the ground, outnumbered, getting his chains taken by multiple people at once. In that moment, he pulled out a weapon and started firing, something that could be argued as self-defense, depending on how it's viewed. Now here's where it gets complicated. Texas law, especially in a place like Houston, has some very specific and sometimes confusing self-defense rules. So the big question becomes, how is this going to be charged? Are we talking reckless discharge, aggravated assault, or does self-defense actually apply here? That's something the district attorney's office is going to have to break down piece by piece. But here's the issue that makes this situation even heavier. The two people who got hit weren't necessarily the ones involved in the robbery, and that changes everything, because once innocent people are getting hit, the self-defense argument doesn't land the same way. You can't just fire shots in a crowded club and expect it to be seen as clean self-defense when bystanders are the ones taking bullets. That adds a whole different layer of legal pressure, and it's going to make this case way more difficult to sort out. And think about the scene. 20 to 30 people inside that building. That means a lot of witnesses, a lot of different stories, and a lot of angles investigators have to go through. Every person saw something different, every detail matters, and putting together the full picture is not going to be quick or easy. Now shifting to something just as important, Ben 10's recovery. What he went through was serious. Multiple serious injuries from those rounds, critical condition upon arrival at the hospital. That's not something you recover from overnight. Yes, the fact that he's alert is a strong sign, but going from alert to fully healed after that kind of trauma takes real time. It's going to be a long, painful, and uncertain process, and during that time, the NBA circle is going to have to stay tight around him more than ever while he works his way back step by step. The response from the hip-hop community has been steady and real. Nothing but support, prayers, and people hoping Ben 10 pulls through. Fans everywhere flooded social media, showing love under every post, every update, every mention of the situation. This wasn't fake engagement. This was real recognition from people who understand what he means in that circle. Now let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about one night, one club, or one incident. This situation speaks to something way bigger, and if you're paying attention, you can already see it. Being connected to someone like NBA YoungBoy isn't just an image. It's not something you turn on for music videos or social media and then switch off later. That lifestyle is real and it follows you everywhere. The chains, the name, the affiliations, it all carries weight whether you're ready for it or not. Ben 10 wasn't in some dangerous back alley. He was at a restaurant in a well-known upscale part of Houston, a place people go to relax and enjoy themselves. And still, the situation found him. That's the part that hits the hardest, because when you're tied to a high-profile name, attention comes with it automatically. The spotlight doesn't fade just because the setting looks safe. The name you carry, the circle you're part of, it all creates an image, and there are always people watching, always people paying attention. And to be clear, this isn't about throwing shade at YoungBoy Ben 10 or anyone in that circle. This is just real talk. There's respect for what's been built, for the loyalty, for the way that circle moves and stays connected through everything, but the culture really has to face something head on. What does it actually cost to live this loud, this visible in these environments? Ben 10 being alive is a blessing, no doubt about it, but it's also a reminder of how close things came to going the other way. Think about what that would have meant if the outcome was different, not just for his family, not just for YoungBoy, but for the entire culture, the conversations that would have exploded online about violence, about hip-hop, about loyalty, and what it really costs in this industry. We've seen that story play out too many times already. Too many losses, too many names remembered through music and memories instead of moments still being lived. And every time the attention comes fast, people talk heavy for a few days, and then it fades. But the people closest to it, they don't get to move on like that. The families feel it, the circle feels it, the ones carrying that weight don't get a break just because the headlines stop. That part never changes. But this time, the outcome shifted the conversation. Ben 10 is still here, so now it's not about mourning, it's about realizing how close it came, and almost should hit just as hard because it shows how thin that line really is. This situation also says a lot about where NBA YoungBoy stands right now, whether he speaks or not. Because even in silence, his presence is everywhere in this story. His name is in the headlines, his circle is part of the context, and his reputation sits underneath every detail being discussed. Every outlet covering this situation ties it back to him in some way. That's the level he's operating on now. What he's built goes beyond just music. It's influence, it's attention, it's weight that follows every situation connected to his name, whether he says a word or stays completely silent. YoungBoy's fan base, Never Broke Again as a movement, is on a different level when it comes to loyalty. Few artists can even come close to that kind of support. The numbers speak for themselves, the consistency speaks for itself, and the influence is undeniable. But with that kind of spotlight comes a reality that situations like this put front and center. The people around YoungBoy aren't just bystanders, they become targets simply because of proximity. Not always because of something they did, but because of what that name represents on a deeper level. That kind of weight doesn't just disappear, it's something YoungBoy carries as the head of that circle, and it's something everyone connected to NBA carries in their own way. And right now, Ben 10 is feeling that reality while laid up in a hospital bed, recovering from something that could have gone completely left. At the same time, everybody is watching how this unfolds. The streets are watching closely. Law enforcement is paying attention. The entire hip-hop world is locked in, waiting to see how this situation develops and how the NBA circle moves through it, both publicly and behind the scenes. Because how this gets handled next, that's going to say a lot about what comes after. So bringing it all together, Ben 10 is alive, alert, and talking, and that alone is something to be grateful for, no matter how you look at it. Because April 8th, 2026 could have easily ended in a completely different way. Those shots could have changed everything, and the conversation right now would be much darker. But that's not the reality we're in. YoungBoy hasn't said anything publicly, and to some people that's confusing, but to others it says everything. Because Kentrell Gaulden isn't someone who lacks emotion, and he's not disconnected from his people at all. He is, if anything, one of the most emotionally raw artists this generation has seen. You can hear it in his music, you can feel it in his delivery. That emotion is real and unfiltered. And that's exactly why this silence matters. This isn't someone who doesn't feel, this is someone who's learned the hard way how words can be twisted and used against you. The silence isn't distance, it's protection. The silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's what it looks like when someone keeps it controlled on the outside, even when everything inside is loud. Right now, the situation is still unfolding. The investigation into the incident is still ongoing. The suspect hasn't been identified yet, and the legal side of this situation is far from resolved. On top of that, Ben 10's recovery is just getting started. It's going to take time, patience, and real support. This story isn't finished, not even close. But in this moment, the biggest thing that matters is simple. One of NBA YoungBoy's own is still here, still breathing, still fighting. And in this life, that's not small, that's everything. Keep Ben 10 in your prayers and keep your eyes on this situation. If you want real updates and breakdowns as this continues to unfold, make sure you stay tapped in right here and don't just watch, get involved. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about YoungBoy's silence? What do you think happens next? Let's talk about it.